What if the moment you are most confident in yourself is actually when you're most at risk of falling? What if loyalty isn't tested when things are easy, but in the quiet, unexpected moments you never prepared for? And what if failure doesn't mean the end of your story, but the beginning of something deeper? There is a shift in the atmosphere as Judas leaves the room. The door closes behind him, and with it, something final has been set into motion. Darkness has stepped out into the night, and what remains is a quieter, more intimate moment between Jesus and the 11. And then Jesus begins to speak. Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. It's a strange thing to say, especially in a moment that is moving toward betrayal, suffering, and the cross. But Jesus isn't speaking from fear. He's speaking from purpose. He sees what is coming, not just as pain, but as fulfillment. He knows that what looks like defeat will actually reveal something greater. Glory in his eyes is not about being lifted up by people. It's about being faithful to what he was sent to do. And then he turns to his disciples and says something deeply personal. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. There's tenderness in his words, a sense that time is short, that what he's about to say matters deeply. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. You can imagine the confusion in the room. These were men who had left everything to follow him. They had walked with him daily, and now he's telling them they can't go where he's going. Before they can fully process that, Jesus gives them something new, something that would define their identity moving forward. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. This wasn't just about being kind. This was about a new standard of love, not based on feelings, not based on convenience, but based on how Jesus loved them. A love that serves, a love that sacrifices, a love that stays, even when it's difficult. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Not by their knowledge, not by their achievements, but by their love. It's simple, but not easy. Because loving like Jesus means stepping beyond comfort. It means choosing patience when it's easier to react, choosing grace when it's not deserved, choosing to stay when walking away would be simpler. And in the middle of all this, Peter speaks, Lord, where are you going? It's a direct question, honest, curious, but also filled with something deeper, a desire not to be left behind. Jesus answers, where I am going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later. There's both limitation and promise in that statement. Not now, but later. Peter, however, isn't satisfied. He presses further. Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you. There it is. Confidence, boldness, a declaration of loyalty that sounds admirable and maybe even sincere. Peter believes what he's saying. In that moment, he truly thinks he is ready, ready to stand, ready to sacrifice, ready to go wherever Jesus goes. But Jesus, knowing what lies ahead, responds with a question that cuts through that confidence. Will you lay down your life for me? And then he says something that no one in that room expected. Very truly, I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. Silence. You can almost feel it, the weight of those words. Peter, the one who spoke first, acted quickly, showed bold faith, being told that he would deny Jesus not once, but 3 times. It doesn't seem to match who Peter is, or at least who he thinks he is. And maybe that's the point. Because this moment reveals something we all struggle with. The gap between who we think we are and who we actually are under pressure. It's easy to be confident when everything feels stable, when you're surrounded by support, when your faith isn't being tested. But what happens when fear enters the picture? When standing firm comes with a cost? When the situation changes faster than you expected? Peter didn't plan to deny Jesus. He didn't wake up that day thinking, today I will fail. He believed in his loyalty. But belief in ourselves is not the same as strength in the moment. And that's where this story becomes deeply personal. Because we've all had moments where we felt strong until we weren't. Moments where we said, I would never do that, until we faced a situation we didn't expect. Moments where our confidence didn't match reality. Peter's story reminds us that good intentions are not always enough. That passion alone doesn't guarantee faithfulness. That sometimes we don't truly know what we will do until we're in the moment. But here's something important. Jesus doesn't say this to shame Peter. He says it to prepare him, to reveal something that Peter cannot yet see. Because before Peter can become the person he is meant to be, he has to confront who he really is. And that's not easy, because it requires humility, honesty, a willingness to face our own weaknesses. But it's also where growth begins. Because when we stop relying only on ourselves, we begin to understand our need for something deeper, something stronger, something beyond our own ability. Jesus knew Peter would fail, but he also knew that Peter's story wouldn't end there, that this moment of denial would not define him permanently, that failure would become a turning point, not a final destination. And that's where hope enters the story. Because this isn't just about predicting failure, it's about what comes after. Peter's denial would break something in him, not to destroy him, but to reshape him, to move him from confidence in himself to dependence on God. And maybe that's something we need to hear too, because failure has a way of making us feel like it's over, like we've gone too far, like we've lost something we can't get back. But the truth is, failure doesn't have the final word, not in God's story. What matters is what we do after. Do we hide? Do we give up? Or do we allow that moment to teach us, to change us, to bring us back with a deeper understanding? Jesus doesn't reject Peter in this moment. He doesn't remove him. He doesn't say, "You're no longer part of this." Instead, he continues speaking, continues preparing, continues loving. Because he sees beyond the failure. He sees the restoration that is coming. He sees the future that Peter cannot yet imagine. And that's the kind of perspective we often lack. We see the moment. God sees the journey. We see the mistake. God sees the transformation. And in this moment, Jesus is inviting Peter and all of us into a deeper kind of faith. Not one based on our own strength, but one rooted in trust, in humility, in dependence. Because real faith isn't proven when everything is easy. It's revealed in moments of weakness, in moments where we don't have all the answers. In moments where we have to choose, even when we feel unsure. Peter's confidence wasn't wrong. It was just incomplete. It hadn't yet been tested, it hadn't yet been refined, but it would be. And through that process, something stronger would emerge. Not a louder faith, but a deeper one. A quieter strength, a more grounded trust. And maybe that's what this story is inviting us to consider. Not just how strong we think we are, but where our strength really comes from. Because life has a way of revealing that. Through unexpected situations, through challenges we didn't plan for, through moments that stretch us beyond what we thought we could handle. And in those moments we discover something important. We are not as self-sufficient as we thought, but we are not alone either. Jesus knew Peter would fail, and he stayed. He continued to walk with him, and he does the same with us, even when we fall short. Even when we don't live up to our own expectations, even when we say things we don't follow through on. He doesn't walk away. He continues to invite, to restore, to lead us forward. So if you've ever felt like you failed, like you didn't stand when you should have, like your actions didn't match your intentions, you're not alone. And your story isn't over, because the same grace that saw Peter through is still available, right now. And maybe the question isn't, will I ever fail? Because at some point, we all do. Maybe the question is, what will I do next? Will I let that moment define me? Or will I allow it to shape me into something stronger, something more real, something more grounded in truth? Because sometimes the path to becoming who we are meant to be goes through moments we never wanted to experience. But those moments don't have to be the end. They can be the beginning of something deeper, something more honest, something more lasting. Thank you for taking this time to reflect on this powerful and honest moment in Scripture. If this message spoke to you, don't forget to like the video, follow the channel for more reflections like this, and share this message with someone who might need encouragement today.